The following podcast is sponsored by Basico. At Basico, we understand your needs and pain points. Our expertise in CFO services, legal, finance IT, and people and payroll helps drive your business forward by inspiring change and challenging norms. We believe in deep explorative discussions and critical angles, the same spirit that fuels the Only Constant podcast hosted by our own Lasse Rindom. Discover more about Basico's vision and services at basico.dk. And if you like what you hear in this episode, please don't hesitate to share it with a friend. And now Lasse, take it away.
You are listening to The Only Constant, a podcast where we go beyond the usual discussions in technology and business and aim to explore more than explain. Join me for engaging discussions with a diverse range of global thought leaders as we seek to uncover new perspectives and insights in a free-flowing conversation. My guest today is Maria Sukhareva, and I am your host, Lasse Rindom. Hi Maria, and welcome to The Only Constant. I've been looking forward for a long time to speaking with you on the podcast, so I'm just really happy you're here with me today.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I've also been looking forward to taking part in this podcast, and let's dive in. So
I actually prepared some questions for you some weeks back, but then something happened over the last couple of days that I think is impossible not to talk about, because the US government put an export control on the Mythos model Fable 5 by Anthropic. And I know you've made some comments about that. Maybe we can just, dive into that a little bit. What do you think this will mean for the AI market? I think that's an interesting question to ask.
Well, now it's hard to say exactly what it will mean, but it's a very, there might be multiple scenarios. They might just pedal back on it in a few days, and that would be like just a warning to Anthropic to behave. Or if it stays like this, it can really be interpreted in many different ways. Like the most pessimistic one is the message that pretty much any model or any product can be simply banned because someone raised concerns about it, because we saw this Wall Street Journal article where essentially the CEO of Amazon allegedly said that the model is too dangerous to let others use it, and then they just decided that they can say no U.S. citizen can use it, and not U.S. citizens can use it. Like only U.S. citizens can use it, and this is the message to. First of all, to AI providers, that essentially you can spend billions on training a model. You can have the marketing campaign. You can tell lots of people like how powerful it is. And then suddenly you will end up making exactly $0 from this, because that's the situation of Anthropic now. Because all the governments, all the banks, everyone who was lining up to pay money for Mythos, well, they are not getting it. Now they also before announced that they will be removing Fable from the subscription-based account and will move it into consumption only. So there was $10 on input, $50 on output. That's very, very expensive for a model. And now that's also not going to happen. So essentially, the model might have cost a few billions to just on compute. It's hard to say, but it wasn't cheap. So what is the commercial incentive now for AI providers in the US or for anyone who works with AI to invest so much, knowing that anytime it can simply be banned? And another aspect that they are also banning non-US researchers to work there. So, for example, they hired Karpati recently. He's a Slovenian citizen. They probably have a large team of researchers who are.
I was going to say that they are not just the banks were lining up to use it. Also, Andrei Karpathy was lining up to use it.
So now they cannot use it either. Like, he cannot work on it.
No.
And how are they going to comply with this? Except for literally, like, I don't know, putting them in a separate building, like removing them from office now. So this is a very concerning message, and it can be something that might pause AI development in the US, because there are also, again, rumors that there was planned release of GPT 5.6 coming, and now they're postponing it till it's clear what happens to them. And that would completely make sense, because like I also wouldn't want to release my multi-billion model now and have it banned next day and not be able to sell it to anyone.
No, it's also, the both OpenAI and Anthropic were looking at an IPO, right? That was the rumors, at least, right, that they were preparing for that. And suddenly, initially, I actually thought that this was good for their IPO, because being told by the U.S. government that you are close to being Skynet is like, okay, it's the worst thing you could be, but it's also like you're making the best models in the world. Oh, it must be so valuable. But at the same time, they just lost much more than half of their consumer base, right? The whole world as a market, right? So I start thinking that in the longer run, maybe this will mean more investments in European technology as well, because this could be a precedent also for, in general, American tech. If American tech is too good, then it could be banned from others to use. So Europeans and Chinese providers will get much more investments, and you could reasonably assume that the market for a European model, like Mistral, for instance, would be much bigger now. The market share would be much, much bigger. So the money will flow to Mistral, which is bad for Anthropic and OpenAI. It just seems like such a weird move. Sorry.
Yeah, that sounds like another tantrum that comes from this administration, because Anthropic, before, he has a history, right? They refused to remove some guardrails, and then they had to sue the government, and the court ruled that Anthropic was right, and I think maybe some egos got hurt. So essentially, it seems like everyone's forgetting that OpenAI also has a model. They also has a cybersecurity model. I think it's called Cyber. Somehow everyone forgot about that one. But literally in a day after Anthropic announced Mythos, like Altman was like, wait, we also have a model that's too dangerous to release. It's a Cyber. But somehow nobody remembers that.
They all love to say that. We have such a dangerous model. It's like, okay, guys, this is terrible marketing because you're getting banned now. So I'm like, maybe they'll be coming out tomorrow. We have a very friendly model. It's very, very friendly. It's not dangerous at all. It's just super. It's like.
So still cannot count ours and strawberry. Like, nothing to ban here.
It's the friend. It's Casper. It's called Casper. It's a friendly ghost. It's in Ghost in the Machine.
It's like, yeah. So like somehow we forgot about that Cyber, because literally they were like saying this is the alternative of Mythos, and now they will be selling this model everywhere.
Yeah.
And it is completely ignored by the U.S. government. They not even slightest concerned.
Well, also just imagine, the repercussions for quantum technology that's also on the way forward, on the move, right, and on the up, and supposedly much more powerful in breaking encryptions and everything. Will that even be something we're going to get access to at any point? There's just a lot of things. I think I said yesterday, this is the most important thing for a very long time, because it's a potential power that the U.S. government always had, and we always knew it had. This is also, it's also in the EU. It's the Schrems ruling, right, about how they're allowed to take our data and everything. But they haven't sort of done anything this big before. And now they've suddenly said, oh, this technology that we sort of thought was global technology is very much national technology. And I think that's sort of like a curtain fall. If you get what I mean. I feel like there's a curtain fall. So I feel like it's a really, really big event, actually, in the long haul, long term. Even if another administration comes in and or even if they go back on it again and allows Fable to be used by non-Americans, it still feels like this is something now they've said they can do it and they're willing to do it, which just means that the whole world has to think about what are we going to do about our technology landscape.
Yeah, I think that's quite fascinating for the European Union, because they were for a long time kind of in denial that the US might actually do something like this. And they've been talking about some kind of sovereignty. And they also, there was like lots of these delusional talks about, but we have our own AI, but we have our own cloud, but we have like, we are like powerful and whatever, like we have Mistral. Well, good luck, like replace them with Mistral. No, not happening.
No.
So this is a very interesting message to the European Union, and maybe they shouldn't have focused so much on regulate AI that they have, because, well, great, they can now regulate the mythos all they want, they're not getting it, so it doesn't matter how thick the rule book is of what you're not allowed to do this.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, Mythos or Fable or Anthropic is not coming to Europe either, so they're not getting the market. So it's everyone loses, right? It's a really weird situation. It's really weird, but it's just going to be so interesting to follow. But anyway, let's jump into the questions we prepared, because I just think we need to touch upon this, right? Yes. And the first thing I want to ask you, maybe we'll come back to this discussion later on anyway, but how important, Maria, is it to understand language, to understand a large language model?
It's a very interesting question, because the area where it comes from is basically called computational linguistics. And when I started it in 2008, there was a lot of linguistics and somewhat computational it was. Now it's mostly computational and not much linguistics. So it's in a way very ironic that, for example, top conference is called Association of Computational Linguistics, and that's still like there are lots of linguists here, because frankly speaking, linguistics, like as understanding and modeling of the language, is already less important than, for example, understanding the statistics and the like how probability distributions work and so on. So, I mean, in a way, you might understand a few things why language model struggles with certain things. For example, if you think about such linguistic phenomena like language ambiguity, and that ambiguity, for example, exists on every possible level, like starting from phonetics to the semantic to syntax and so on. So that's one. Then you might also have need to think about how, without any understanding of a language, because LLMs have no understanding of the language as such, they operate on meaningless subwords, like meaningless in the linguistic sense, because these tokens, they are not morphologically motivated, they are not words, they are not lexically motivated, they are pure frequency motivated. So how can a model that essentially completely disregards what language is have a good modeling of the language? And this is quite interesting. So I think to understand how the language models work, linguistics might be not that necessary. If you just view language in the mathematical sense as a vocabulary combined by grammar, like how natural language works. But when you start kind of thinking about where the limitations are, for example, why certain languages are better for LLMs than the other ones, why morphology might have a certain impact on this, why ambiguity might play a certain role, like why low resource languages might be harder to process, then it might be relevant for you to know. So yeah, that's might be a bit ironic and depressing thing that we completely forgot about using AI as a way to understand the language, and mostly like focusing on the way to model the generation.
Yeah, because there's this, I think I can't remember the the name of this mystery, or is it even a mystery? But it was something where that every word in any given language, the second most used word was always used half as much as the most used word in that language, and then the third was used a third as much as the most used,
Deep
and then
slop?
the fourth. Well, Zipflaw, exactly.
Yeah.
Which even for a language like Linear B, which we don't understand I don't know if we still don't understand it, but we didn't used to understand. I don't know, actually, I haven't followed up on that. But 10 years ago, we didn't understand that language. We just had the signs, sort of, we just had the letters or what it even is. But that also had that weird distribution, which all languages have. So there is clearly like a rhyme and reason to how language operates and works, right? But it's also reducing all language to just that. So I'm always conflicted about this, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, LLMs in a way also you can think like language is very diverse, and Zipflaw has a long tail, right? So, and every human produces in a day a few sentences that has never been uttered before. But LLMs, on the contrary, they like producing something mediocre, something average. And one of the big problems of language models before is the lack of diversity. And now this random sampling that was introduced helps with diversity, but you kind of see how still all like this like AI slop, where this AI slop is, because LLMs like making everything mediocre. So they make good writers write mediocre text. If good writers rely too much on AI correction, they make bad writers write better mediocre text. And so eventually you end up somewhere in the average of this whole.
We end up in a best practice world, right? That was actually maybe the core of my question, right? Why it's important to understand language, to understand a large language model, is to understand the language also is just as de Saussure would say, labels essentially, or signifiance, right? And it's never the signified. And I think that this relationship is what I always admired about linguistics and semiotics, thinking about what is the relationship between words and reality. And it seems like with AI and our language models, we've sort of forgotten about that conundrum, which has been preoccupying everyone since Plato, basically, with the ideas and phenomena, right? It's the same thing, but where every table has 4 legs because that's the average distribution. That's how it is, right? But that doesn't mean that the table has 4 legs.
Yeah, I mean that's. LLMs. Anthropic tried to kind of like pretend they discovered some kind of concepts in LLM. So even like worse emotions. There was an entertaining paper. So. And they were like, well, we have like this language model. It has language, but it does have internal concepts, like in the way like humans have, because every human has a concept of what a table is, and. It's like this is like the mapping between the concepts in our head and the language is what allows us to communicate with each other, because what we map to the concepts when we speak is the same thing that the other person maps, and even like cross languages. And that's how, like, when I say table in itself means nothing like as the word, but like it's this mapping that I visualize table, and that's why you understand that what table is. But LLMs, they kind of like, they do not have concepts in the way they do not think in concepts, they do not reason in concepts, they predict the next next string. And this lack of like conceptual abstraction in the LLMs when they generate, I think this is something that's quite interesting, that it's that it still works, but it's a fundamentally different approach to intelligence and to producing the output than like how humans work. Like,
yeah, you'd also be telling me, this is a table, but it has 3 legs. You'd mention that it's an outlier, because you'd also think, if you say it's a table to me, and I would assume that, oh, it's a table with 4 legs, because of course we have sort of the same idea about a table, but you'd have to spell out that it's with 3 legs. But with a language model, understand that it would have to. It's just interesting. This also, sometimes when you ask a question and you formulate it like a riddle that it's seen before, it will think the whole thing is a riddle, and then it will answer like a riddle in nonsense, because the pattern of your question, not the content of your question, but the pattern looked like something else to it. And that's just super weird, because no human would ever do that.
Yes,
Except
yeah, exactly. Like the mother and the doctor, right? Like this is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
That's the famous one where I was like always saying it was the father. No, it's like the father is the doctor, Like, you know which one I am referring to, right? Like I think.
But I actually did another one. I learned that from Thomas Hildebrand, a professor at the university in Copenhagen, who was on the show as well, where he did. I have a boat with room for a person and an animal, and make an optimal plan for getting me and my dog Luna across the river. And then it always assumed that because it said optimal plan, it sounds like something that's a riddle. So it said something nonsense like, put your dog, get in the boat, get across, row the boat back. The dog rows the boat across. The boat goes back and brings you and the dog, and you're all on the same side now. It's like, no, and the dog can't row. And it's like, and it gave you, if you do that with a single shot model today, not a thinking model, it would still do that weird shit. But a thinking model would be like, no, why am I thinking this? Why am I saying this? And that's the funniest thing, looking at reasoning, because then it's like making this weird plan, and then in the second, reasoning step, it's like, what is this? No, just get in the boat. So it corrects itself. I love that. It's like a mind just fucking with itself, right? But this is I think this is super telling of what's actually going on when it's activating these bubbles of concepts, and we can't necessarily know what concepts are in there, but we can be sure there are some concepts that might be on word structure, sentence structure, but also might be just on concepts, right? That's just super interesting.
And I think like that we keep on finding such examples, no matter how developed the model is. Like, for example, I tasted Fable while it was still available, and it kept on counting letters incorrectly. And it's like the saying that it's just because models operate in tokens is an oversimplification. It's not really about this. It's literally about that they are predicting something that they expect. So like I asked like how many G's in Google or something like this, and then it would be like it's there's like
but you misspelled it, right? You misspelled it.
I spelled like goggles, like goggles. Like
and then it thought it was Google, so it thought it was like
and it's not like it sounds like Google to it. It's like kind of, so it's like predicted immediately that it's 2, and I had to go to reasoning high, like it's like medium low, like immediately 2 and good, what it shows to us that there's like this fundamental limitation of no matter how big you do your model, it's always going to have this problem that it will rely on those probabilities, and it will always be picking something up that it has already seen before. It will always hallucinate this, and you will always see that there is like no true intelligence, no conceptualization, no approach to breaking down the idea logically, that it just goes and like predicts what's next, builds this reasoning traces, and eventually adds up at something where your reasoning traces led through this probabilities that was generated over them.
But did you also see this? This Instagram account, or is it a Facebook account called IRL Husk, in real life Husk? The guy who's making fun of ChatGPT all the time, where he's making it.
That guy,
the guy where so I'm just gonna run for 10 kilometers. I'm back. Oh, that was like 5 minutes, and he didn't run. It's just. But he did one which really made me think as well, where he said, I am going to speak Spanish now, and you have to rate my Spanish. Yeah, sure, go ahead. And then he said, hello, my name is, and then he spoke English. And then it was like, really good Spanish, it said. That was great Spanish. Yes. And that made me think, okay, so it is just tokenizing also the languages. It's not even, they're all the same. Our language is even separate. And that made me think, because I remember.
True.
But that's really weird, because then you have, for instance, in German, and I know you're in Germany, right? You're in Germany right now, right? Yeah, you have multiple words for experience in English, right? It's just experience. It's just both when you have something you've learned, and it's also when you're experiencing something right now, something that's happening. There's multiple, like 10 different German words covering the word experience in English. So what is getting lost when it's sort of tokenizing all of this into a mix? I don't. You don't necessarily have to have an answer to that, but I think that's super weird.
Yeah, I mean, well, why doesn't know the languages kind of makes sense, because when models are trained, like that's the reason why we actually have tokens in the first place, because tokens, like substrings, is a trick to deal with the explosive vocabulary of the languages, and it's all trained together, like all the occurrences, all the frequencies are trained together, and then it's all projected into these weights in the transformer matrices. So they like LLMs, they don't have like conceptual representation. Like this is an English word for safety, right? This is an English word for security. This is like a German word for Sicherheit. And then in Russian, we don't even have a word for any of this. We just have a word that means not danger, which is also like kind of a bit different than what people say here, safety, security. And that's like, and it's also in a way defines the cultural implications. But anyway, where you are at this, it's all like in this matrix of weights. But how should it know like which one? Because when it generates, it's I'm not sure even there's any label which language it generates. I mean, in machine translation, you sometimes would put some kind of tags or some trigger to generate in a certain language. I'm not sure they even do this. Like it just starts generating something in German, for example, like ich, like I, and then the probability tells you that the highest probability word afterwards is bin, and not like am. So that's how it works, but it like has no idea like which token in which language it is, because it's not conceptualizing.
My thing is just just think that if it's sort of experience and Erfahrung or something like that, which is the German word for having knowledge, experience, or remember something that's happened. It's really weird to actually explain these German words in English because they mean different aspects of experience. But if they're trained the same, I'm just wondering how will it be able to produce some like German phenomenologists, the philosophers, like, because Germans are really good at that because they have a language to express these philosophical ideas, or will it always sort of, because it's read to more English than German, will it always sort of, make it more flat? Do you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean, that it's kind of like going to have a certain bias towards like the majority language.
And then reduce the strengths of each language, which has all the languages have different strengths, right? I don't know. It just made me think a lot about that.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. It's like I mean, like the models now, they have around 90% English training data. Even the Chinese models are mostly English corpus. I think like I was like once told by Alibaba researchers that they have composition of 70 to 30 Chinese and English. So. And then when you check like bias, for example, there are lots of studies like on political bias of LLMs, and actually they are not that different in terms of like how biased they are, whether that's like Chinese or like Grok or whatever, and they all kind of have different biases in the language. Like depends on which language they speak. They might be like more conservative and less conservative.
It's also just the language words, right? The language words are biased. Languages, like language, the vocabulary is biased as well. As I just said. Also with genders in German. Yeah, there's just so much here that I don't think we've even touched upon, right? When we're doing these language models.
Yeah, I mean, I would make sense that if they would be like raising certain cultural implications and would maybe misuse a few words in like kind of in a context where something would be lost. I'm sure there are like studies on this, but I mean, I cannot like come up with a good one now.
Oh, please, come on, Maria. You study linguistics. Come on, give me.
So that's
No, but it feels like another extension of this whole, with the table, because it would not, Salvador Dali would think of a table that looked weird, right? But ChatGPT can't make up that table that looks weird. And the same, a long time ago, these image models either, they couldn't even make, a glass of wine that was full to the brim, right? Because glasses of wine are never full to the brim. So it's just, we're losing something here, right? That's just the point. Or what are we losing? Do we even know what we're losing? That when everyone's starting to write and think with these models, right? That's super interesting. Because,
Yeah,
Maria, yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. Like, I mean, it always aims for the average, like it always wants to generate something that lies somewhere in the middle of this probabilities, like some kind of like what is observed a lot. So it always will be probably biased towards generating something that's observed in the Western culture, in English, and so on. Like it's like those examples where you show to people like to AI, you ask AI to generate a picture of a wedding, and it will like generate the white dress, and will obviously not generate like an Indian wedding. So that's quite or like if you like the bananas like example is like well known and ancient. When you ask to generate a banana, and it will be a yellow banana always.
Yeah, and it also did 2 bananas once. Midjourney always made 2 bananas. Remember that a couple of years back? It couldn't make 1 banana. You don't remember that?
Really?
Yeah, there was 2 years ago. There was 1.5 years ago. There was a 1 banana problem. So if you asked it to make 1 banana, it always made 2. I was like, why? So I think they had to specifically train it to always make 1 banana if people ask for 1 banana, because it was so annoying. You should look that up. The 1 banana problem is
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I remember the negative embeddings problem.
Yeah, that was so funny. Make a picture with no elephants, and then you just
exactly,
had 2 small elephants in the corner. Like, why are these elephants there? It's like, are you hiding something from me, Midjourney? Why are you? It was always super funny. Negations, right? Yeah. But also, okay, but in the end, right? And I after we spoke last time, I did a post immediately afterwards saying that I finally posted my first AI generated message or a LinkedIn post where I just said, "Colourless green ideas sleep furiously," and you introduced me to that. And what is that? Why is that a great sentence when thinking about language models?
Yeah, so it comes from Noam Chomsky, from his book he wrote in 1957. And there he was discussing something slightly different. So he was discussing that even if something sounds grammatically correct, it doesn't mean that you are likely to observe this in the language. So like colors, green ideas sleep furiously is a completely grammatically correct sentence, but like the probabilities of seeing something like this in the language is very low, because even if you like have like these bigrams or trigrams probability combinations, you still like almost every bigram here would have 0 probability to have been observed in the corpus before. So he had this as an argument that statistical syntactic parsers are not necessarily correct, because they will miss a lot of such words, like such constructions. But essentially, I find like we kind of have our own version of colorless green ideas now, especially like in AI slop and in AI research, because currently in the AI research in conferences, we have an apocalypse of submissions that were literally generated by by LLMs in a day. And when you look at the titles, they sound like scientific. They sound that they might make sense, but they are essentially completely meaningless. So they grammatically correct, but they are essentially colorless green ideas sleeping furiously there. So at some point, I wrote a big article about it where there was a person, a student. She was in Oxford University, and I don't know why she came up with this idea, but she seemed like it was a talented student. She was in plenty of hackathons. She had genuine collaborations with researchers, and like she did internships. She was like trying hard to build up her research career, but for some reason she discovered ChatGPT, and she generated like I don't know, like I think already from the people who contacted me after the article came out, like maybe over 100 papers, and she submitted it pretty much in every possible workshop, and sometimes multiple submissions that she could find. She's like in a NeurIPS, in ACL, in EACL, in any conference you look at, there is a workshop collocated with this conference. She generated a paper for this. And the problem was that people, like the organizers, they have to review this nonsense. And the quality was horrendous, but like they spent around the day on reading this. I mean, I'm pretty sure the student didn't read these papers because the amount she produced was just impossible to read for anyone within like half a year. And so this is somewhat of a problem of LLMs. So they generate. And as soon as you get into this area where you cannot judge on factuality and the sanity of what is generated, then everything starts sounding to you like plausible. But then someone, like a reviewer, someone looks at this and thinks like, oh my God, like what nonsense is this I'm reading? And when I first read her paper, when I saw a professor, like a friend of mine, Ivan Habernal, he posted about this on LinkedIn. And first I started reading one of her papers and I started like doubting myself because it's like, it's so absurd. But I mean, I was like, am I missing something? Is this like, does it actually make sense? Or like, what's going on here? So
yeah. That's so funny. I think it's, not funny, of course, and you call it slop, but this is spam, to be honest, right? You're spamming people. You're wasting their time and their energy with AI generated slop. I find it, and I also post about that everyone's writing quietly everywhere, right?
Oh God, yes. Yes, actually and quietly.
Yeah, but just quietly. I'm like, so they quietly invested $7 billion. It's not quietly because everyone's writing about it, guys. The US government just quietly shut down Fable 5. No. That's not quietly. It's like very, very aggressively, right? And but it's like everyone is just like, oh, this sounds neat, quietly. Oh yeah, that sounds really good. I'm going to post this. I'm like, do you have any idea what you're writing? And also these. It's not this, it's this. This structure it's always doing. And sometimes I sit down and I read these negation, like they don't make any sense. It doesn't underscore anything. And sometimes the things say it's not, but it's this, that is actually the same thing. And you're like, but why? It just sounds neat, It sounds like colorless green ideas that sleep furiously, right? It doesn't make any sense. But it sounds really crisp, like poetry, or, this is a good sentence. So is the problem really the AI models, or is it the complete incompetence of people to understand language and writing and text? Is it the illiteracy of people that's the problem, Maria, in reality?
Yeah, well, I mean, before we used to associate this eloquence and ability to use words beautifully with intelligence and education. And now this disappears from our society because being eloquent is something that LLMs are very good at. So if you can use complex words, if you can express your opinions beautifully in text, it doesn't mean that what you're writing there is in any way meaningful or important or has any actual expertise. So this is probably something that plays trick on many still, especially those who do not know LLM. So they see all these words like beautiful structures, perfect punctuation, and they think, oh, that must be written by an expert, while in reality it's written by a bachelor student who just generated a bunch of AI slop with complex words.
Yeah, and it's quietly changing everything we're reading, right?
Yes, it's quietly. It's not just.
It's not just changing how what we're reading. It's
transforming our reality.
Let's delve into that, Maria. So that was the first one. Remember Delve everywhere? Delve just exploded in academic papers as well, because everyone's. But I just think that I've just always been personally conflicted around this because I really like the empowerment of language models to give people who are like dyslexic but still very smart the ability to actually write. Think, get their thinking into writing with these models. But it seems like there's just so many people who, I remember Casper Junge on the podcast a couple of years back, he said that, how do you finish a thought that no one had? And that's still, that's, they're the next word predictors. There's the sentence finishers, they finish your sentences. That's what essentially language models do. And how do you finish something where you have had no thought? Then there's no thought to finish. Then it's just blah, blah, blahing, right? I still think that's one of the most eloquent ways of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah, true. That's on the other hand, there's this has been this discussion: can LLMs produce new knowledge? Because that's the whole selling point of Fable, that it can actually self-improve and create LLMs. And it's, I'm conflicted on this one because, of course, they operate in the boundaries of its probability distribution, so they cannot generate something that they haven't observed. But at the same time, they generate they have an endless amount of combinations over things that were of evidence that they provided outside evidence. They might prioritize a combination that has never occurred before. So in a manner, they could theoretically improve transformer architecture if they, for example, provided evidence during reasoning, during training, that, for example, something improves loss, or something creates overfitting, or something has a certain effect. So they might be able to find optimal parameters, or maybe modify some existing architectures in a way that it would work better. So kind of the Anthropic idea for self-improvement is not necessarily wrong, because if we look at this not as a question of inventing something new, but as a question of search among endless combinations of what we have seen before, then it's possible that it will generate it. But to generate some kind of absolutely new idea that has never been seen before, that's not transform, not improve, not recombination.
Create cubism or Salvador Dali, right? That's what like I said, would it create that out of the blue, right? Out of nothing?
Probably that's highly unlikely. But again, how much of world research is actually coming out of the blue? Because we also have even transformers as everything was eventually a combination of this hive mind of researchers that produced a lot of basis for what essentially gave birth to this paper, where they, for example, they realize we don't need recurrent networks anymore. We can just deal with attention now. So let's remove recurrency. But the first application of attention was to recurrent neural networks and so on. And before it was also LLMs, LSTMs were proposed as a mathematical idea, even before, I think, in 90s. And so it's kind of always ends up with the recommendation of this combination of what has been there before, but kind of a search in this hive mind. So in a way, they might be onto something here. But again, the LLMs also have a problem that they have this bias towards something that frequently occurs and frequently observed. So
I call them providential models in my conversation with Carl Friston, because they're sort of always seen before. If they pro video, they've sort of seen before. They're not evidencing, they're providencing, So because they've seen before, and then they're seeing things with what they've seen before, and only that, where we could actually be surprised in a different way, and then incorporate something new in our minds. They could also, we can also. It becomes very philosophical, right? But the thing I'm thinking most about is, how the model, when it's not being asked to do anything, is just sitting there. It's not creating a new language model. So you always have to have this push. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any will to do anything. But if you say, find a way to make a better language model, then it will look at all the articles about language models. It will look at everything in its own model. It will use its own weights to figure out how could I optimize a language model, right? Over and over and over, endlessly. It could go on endlessly, right? But It still needs to push.
Yeah, I mean, it could endlessly get external feedback from, the log output of what's happening, for example, during training. It can constantly have this evaluator giving the output, and essentially it can start adjusting this and that, and might at some point, after a lot of time, come up with something that
or end up in a rabbit hole, right?
Been found
or end up in a rabbit hole, like this, the world might not go under because AI got conscious, but because AI went down a wrong route. I always think about that. AI went to a rabbit hole and killed us all. But it could just as well have given us all ice cream if it had been thinking for 2 days, right? But it ended up releasing the nuclear bombs. But do you get what I'm getting at? Because it's not really there in the world, right? It's just pushed, and then it moves, and then it makes some choices. And that was also what Ethan Mollick wrote about Fable 5, right? That I don't really know what choices it made during this 9-hour run. It just made some choices. I used to be a wizard, he said, wielding a language model. Now I'm a patron. Now I'm just saying, do something. And then I'm sitting around waiting, oh, that's so nice what you did. But I don't know how or why or the decisions you made. You just worked for 9 hours. And here I have something. Thank you.
Yeah. I think humans have a wish to have it explainable in the way humans understand, choices, concepts, logic. But if none of this is present there, how do you explain this to yourself? What if everything is literally just multiplication of weights, and it's not mappable to human concepts? That's the problem.
No, it's super challenging to a liberalist perspective as well, of choice and what's in a choice and what does it mean to be an individual. And what does it mean when we're all sort of suddenly becoming extensions of these AI models, and people are writing with that and tone of voice and thinking with them? It's just, I think it challenges it. I feel challenged by it. I feel that decisions, everyone's asking a language model about decisions, and they're just getting biased decisions based on random weights, right?
It's even worse when it's tells you, gives the answer. It was trained to satisfy your needs. Yeah. So it never cares about whether it's truthful, correct or not. It only cares if it was during the training data, would it get the reward for this answer or would it be punished for this answer? And this is why we constantly have these alignment problems, because alignment is essentially giving this reward and punishment for something that annotators define. So when OpenAI had this story with this teenager killing himself at some point, and the teenager, and they overaligned it to the other way. So the thing was always disagreeing with you because they were accused that it's too sycophantic. Then Fable currently was refusing to answer a lot of harmless things because it's overlined, and this is kind of a normal curse of a classifier, right? It will never have the perfect fitting because it's
not really in the room. It doesn't exist there. It's just either we're leaning one way or the other, right?
Yeah, it's it's either based on the words, it either classifies it that way or this way. It doesn't have the subjective experiences, doesn't have common sense, doesn't have a concept of, doesn't have this theory of mind where the LLM would know who it's talking to, how important this topic can be. It's just I
always thought that the sycophantic thing was really, just answering your prompt is essentially sycophantic. It will always only reply to what you said. It will not say that's a stupid task, No, I won't do it. It's a stupid task. It doesn't do that. It's always okay, let's move with this because it's all it has to move with, right? So it naturally tries to prolong your sentence, right?
Yeah, but in post-training, they have these annotators, right? And they evaluate which answer they like the most, right? And if, let's say, all the annotators were told to like the answers where the LLM tells you you're an idiot and your question is completely stupid, and if they would train the model to be rude and offensive, and that would be trained as alignment to users' needs, that's what the model would be doing. It wouldn't care that it's offensive. sensitive and so on. So then eventually they started giving more and more guardrails. They're like the model should be nice, polite, and factuality is also one of those elements to users' needs, right? So factuality is defined as something a user wants. So truthfulness is not defined as a truth, but it's something that user would want.
No, so define truth, Maria, right? What is the truth, right? What is the truth, right? What would Descartes say, right?
Yes, exactly. Like that's you need to search for a foundation.
Yeah, yeah, but also even though in truth it doesn't really exist, right? It is. Okay, now okay, but Maria, talking about truth, right? Are you an AI expert?
That's a good question. I never liked this in the beginning, especially when everyone became an AI expert. And before, I was never like really called AI expert, except for my official title at the company I work, and which I don't represent now, obviously, and all opinions are solely my own. So I always had a feeling that AI is such a wide area. There's like so much happening there that if you call yourself AI expert, you're probably not an expert in anything. And if you cannot say what exactly you're expert in, like are you like a computer vision expert? Are you a natural language processing expert? Then are you like working in simulations? Then you're probably not an expert in anything. And I have good friends who, for example, do simulations and I have no idea what they're doing. They also go as AI expert. So, I mean, in a way, yes, like that would be true to say that I'm an AI expert because I'm an NLP expert, but I would never say that I'm an AI expert in the sense that I can.
So if your grandmother asks you, would you say you're an AI expert?
I mean, my grandmother wouldn't know what AI is, but I would probably. I mean, I call myself like this now so that people understand it. And
what about at NeurIPS? At NeurIPS, would you say you're an AI expert?
No, that would be cringe.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I say it to people who are not from the area. That would be embarrassing if I would be like walking around like ACL or something and being like, I'm the AI expert, and they're like, oh, she's new here. And
no, but you call yourself the AI realist, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a good catchy publication. So I was like, I absolutely don't remember how I came up with this name. Which means I probably came up with it very quickly and didn't think much about it.
No. Could just well been AI truthsayer, just like we just talked about truth, right? AI truthsayer, Maria. Do you speak the truth?
Oh gosh, no, that would be even more cringe than AI expert with AI truthsayer. God forbid. I mean, I'm not. No, gosh.
I'm gonna take whatever you say now. I'm gonna take it as a clip and post it everywhere. Just saying, Maria, so full of herself,
I mean, the cringiest work title I can think of is AI evangelist. No. I mean, each time when I see someone saying even where's chief AI evangelist or whatever like this, and I always want to say okay, then I'm AI Satanist or something. What's the opposite of AI evangelist?
I'm an AI Jesuit, right? I'll burn your bones. But I always go, a thought leader is a thing, right? Because you have to, and there's also a thing in the Anglo-Saxon world. It's okay to say that, but in a German, especially in the Scandinavian world, it's very frowned upon to say you're anything special, right? Just please don't think you are. So it's really weird how LinkedIn is weird because it's a global space, right? So you have to communicate. AI realist. I'm like, and then suddenly you come back into your hometown. Everyone's like, who are you? Are you full of yourself or what?
Yeah, I know. Thought leader is also a question. A lot of people say they're thought leaders, but I wonder, does anyone else know that they're leaders? Who are they leading? So it's yeah, in a way, I'm trying to avoid such labels. I had thought leader for some time in my LinkedIn profile because ChatGPT told me, or like one of those LLMs told me that it's a good keyword to be discoverable because people use search.
Yeah.
And if I put a natural language processing and computational linguist, nobody will find me. So
Computational linguist. I love that. You should definitely
exactly.
put that instead. That's much better. That means you're actually an expert.
Yeah, but I mean, I like nobody will know what I am. It will sound like never worked outside of academia, and
But isn't that also the problem with social media and AI and everything? It's sort of making everything, as we talked about, genderless, or sort of we didn't talk about genderless, but sort of flat surfaces of the same words, right?
yeah,
The same thing here, right? Because everyone's always also talking about right now that we need to someone said that you need to be either in sales or neurodivergent to work in AI, to win in AI, right? So you have to either be a seller, just whatever random dude,
yeah.
or you have to be neurodivergent and some specific. I don't think I agree. I just saw a post saying that. I can't
But
remember
that's
who wrote
Karp
it.
who said it, and he's neurodivergent, so he basically said it about himself, like I'm a perfect fit.
Who said that?
That's like it's like Palantir CEO. Like I forgot his first name, Karp, like
Oh,
Alexander Karp, or
it
like
was him.
yeah,
Oh,
that's who he said. Like I'm neurodivergent, and you need to be neurodivergent to like survive AI or something like this. I'm like, well, great. Like of course you're the one who stays.
you're the one who says
We
exactly.
got the
But
message.
no, but my point is just, there's just so many people talking about skill sets and talking about, being an expert and wanting an expert and everything. But at the same time, it seems like it's being averaged out, it's being, diluted, right? So it's what is the right future skill sets? So do we even know? Is things moving too fast right now to even know what are the future skill sets we should be looking at in an AI world?
That's a very interesting question too, because well, my very high level vision from what I experience now that AI a little bit like, or maybe a lot shifts the question from how to what to do. So you might, before a big question, for example, in corporations and so on, when you had a POC or in your head or to do something, you had a question like how to do it, like where do I get developers, where do I find money for this, well, like so basically like how to organize this. Now it's I mean, if you have an idea of some app, you can just vibe code it in a way like a small prototype and see if it works. Like this how is getting less and less important, but what gets even more gets extremely important, because now in the world where almost everyone can bring out some kind of a solution, it gets very competitive to know the right what to do. And we see this now with these AI startups, because they all kind of like twins of each other. They have some kind of a ChatGPT wrapper. Like first there were, everyone started building chatbots. Now I think they all release some kind of agents, and then they all get crashed by a hyperscaler who just releases the general platform and
Yeah.
like orchestrators, like I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah. I
like
made a startup, and I'm always like, so did you make an LLM wrapper? Because I really don't want to talk to you then. But there's been like so many of those, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, there were so many like victims of this. Like, I mean, I'm not sure how's Langchain doing,
no,
because they were very good in the beginning as an orchestrator, but now they basically like what's their even like the selling point anymore? Like every cloud will have some kind of orchestration for agents. Like they like you don't need this.
but it's
But
also
they have.
becoming something that in the end, it's about requirement specification. You need to define what you want, but that also means that platform companies. I've been thinking a lot about that. Whether something like BI tools or automation tools will even make sense when AI can generate your dashboards in 2 minutes. So
Yeah,
why
I
would
don't
you
know.
just make the data structure? You need to have that in place and all that. Okay, ETL is still a thing. You need to know what you want to do with it. You need to know how it maps up. But making the visualizations shouldn't take more than 2 minutes, right?
I think a low. I mean, again, I'll say something controversial now, but I think low code should be dead by now. I absolutely do not see the reason of any clicky platform to exist, because why would I need like to drag, like there's like Wix and this like website building with like where you drag things. Like, what's the point of this anymore?
Yes.
Like, no, for me, it's no point. It just creates an overhead and it's just inconvenient to use. So, well, sorry, but
it's funny that,
probably
go back 6, 7, 8 years, it was like really smart to use, right? And now it's like super inconvenient and it's a waste of time, and that's what's really changing. Technology platforms like that doesn't really make any sense anymore. The only thing that really makes sense is, owning the process or the value chain, or, like you said, knowing what to build, the requirement specifications, basically, right? There's so many app builders out there who don't know, but there's no SMEs involved. There's marketers who don't know how to market, and engineers who don't know how to engineer. And now they're making a startup, and you're like, what are you doing, guys? You don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And if your startup, if your company was mostly answering question how, then you might be in trouble. So if you were answering how to build websites, how to build applications, how to do this, you might be in trouble compared to someone who brought expertise.
Maybe you can make a linguistic app or something like that, because you actually know linguistics, right? Make the real AI, because you understand when this one post at one point, someone said, AI is only good when you're stupid. AI starts being good at the point of your ignorance, right? And I think that should be on the wall of any AI startup in the world right now. That, remember, if it feels really good, it's because you don't know the subject matter. Point, and end of discussion, because there's always something. If you're really good at something, you're always critical of AI output. Don't you know? If you're really good at, it's a really good controller, financial control, he's always critical. You can get the output after many iterations with an LLM, but the first answer is like, no, this doesn't work. He's critical because he knows about his subject matter, right?
Yeah, and the harder the topic is, usually the worse the output. And this is what we don't see, because I don't know. I mean, I know Dunning-Kruger is not real. I mean, that's a myth that it's actually a thing, but it's in a way, for many people, it's.
Oh, the Dunning-Kruger, and the Mount Stupid,
Yeah. I mean, that's not real. Like there was already like studies that show that there is no such effect, like from psychological point of view. But
I thought it was real. I think
no. That's already kind of there are people who disagree with us. But I can very well imagine when you get this output from LLM and you have no idea what's the reality. I think a lot of AI expertise out there is the victim of this LLMs, because I deeply believe that the idea that LLMs are good for repetitive tasks, boring repetitive tasks, is the victim of LLM output of the early ones that were trained on the information about BERT and SVM and so on, that were really good for repetitive tasks and boring tasks. Because from everything we see, that's not where the value of LLMs is. The value of LLMs is in coding, is in writing, maybe even in brainstorming, in fact-checking, and researching. Those are not boring, repetitive tasks that everyone tries to automate. That's actually a completely different use case, and that's where they're most impactful.
Yeah, but I actually think that the way I look at it is usually that this inference that they sort of do, they sort of predict the next word, is basically creating metadata in a business context. So if you look at it through a metadata lens, then it becomes more business-oriented, saying that, okay, I can create metadata on anything that comes in. So I get this, and I'm holding up a mouse. Here's a mouse, and it will tell me that it's a mouse. It has 2 buttons, and when I know it has 2 buttons, then it will say, oh, then it's not a Mac mouse, and then it can move it on to, the Mac, non-Mac bucket. Metadata becomes the thing that moves processes on. And I think the superpower is also in that, also in the mundane tasks, where you can actually have higher reliability, because it will keep on repeating, this is not a Mac mouse.
In a way, maybe. I think actually where you're going at with this is a different idea, which is less ethical, but this is the point where you probably can replace, like, that's might be the path to replacing certain humans and actually like have this, reduction of headcount. Because what the OpenClaw and LLMs can do, they can very well protocol your way of actions. If you, they have these memories, they have this MD files. Karpati has this wiki approach where it can protocol it. And frankly speaking, I kind of see the potential here, not just like write the metadata for your mouse, but like metadata for the actions of a person that works with this. And then once the person leaves, you can just pass these workflows that were protocoled by the LLM to the next one. And it can all be done much quicker. Like, I know that it works because I have OpenClaw. And basically, I always tell OpenClaw, like, now we did it like this, and now you remember, and next time...
It's not called OpenClaw now, is it? It's called Notebook, right?
No, it's OpenClaw. It was Clawbot. Yeah, it was Clawbot. Then it was triggered, like it triggered like Anthropic.
Clawbot as well, right? But now it's OpenClaw.
Now it's OpenClaw. They went from, like, they renamed into Moldbook, realized that it's a horrible name, Moldbot. And then they called into themselves OpenClaw, and now it's officially OpenClaw. Yeah, so OpenClaw works exactly like this. You do a workflow, and then you tell it to remember how you did this, and next time it does it without your assistance. So it's
but you can replace a person there, but also just sometimes I get flabbergasted by going into enterprise and seeing how many people are actually employed to just sort emails from email inboxes, right? People are hired, they're just sitting there hours a day and moving them around. I'm like, guys, this is metadata production you're doing, and it's very simple, saying this is about an invoice, this is about a contract, this is about just get an LLM to do that already, because they're really, really good at that. It's very simple to do that. So these mundane tasks are definitely also a thing they're really, really good at, because you can test if it understands this concept of this email, right? You can actually test
but it's even email sorting is can be a complex task for them, because it needs to figure out what this email, where to sort from who, and there can be a multi-step thing. And if you have in parallel many other tasks, it gets instruction overload. And a human would be fine with this, but the LLMs get quickly bamboozled, and that's where we that's where I see the bottleneck with OpenClaw. The more of such workflows I add, the worse it gets. And no matter how many times you tell it to do something, then it forgets unless you find it.
It's not scaffolded. The problem with OpenClaw is it's not really scaffolded. It's just an open AI agent, because in this case, other case, I would scaffold it to say, only look this email and put it into one of these buckets. Don't look at anything else, right? I'll make
you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking with OpenClaw, it's always looking at looking at everything at once. Right?
You can restrict OpenClaw to a certain folder. You can manage through certain permissions. They actually improved a lot there.
But why does it then?
It's work to do it.
It's work to do it.
That's where you need to configure OpenClaw.
Yeah, you need to scaffold it all the time, right? It's
exactly.
fine.
It's work. It's a different type of work that might actually be something you would have to do eventually.
Would you agree with the thing I said? I think in one of the first episodes, and one of my first thoughts was, about these LLMs, where I said we spent a lot of time building these, previously building some symbolic AI models where we define the if then else is basically nested at like crazy, and now we sort of self-train big AI models, but now we have the same task in adding symbolic controls to these self-trained models to make them useful. Is it the same task? Is making them useful? It's configuring the same task as it would have been to build the symbolic. I don't think it is, but you get my point. Are we just moving the energy to somewhere else?
Yeah, you mean that we are circling in this, ontologies, then statistics, then kind of.
No, but when you used to define, if then else nested loops and tons of symbolic AI networks previously, you would spend a lot of time building that and defining that and setting up this AI model. And then we got these self-trained models, and and now we're spending maybe the same effort that we did on the other models, but we're spending it on constraining and defining and configuring and scaffolding the self-trained, uncontrollable.
Yeah, so we again going back to the rule-based stuff. So
we're going back to the middle. We're always hunting for the middle where it's working, right? But the one was like building it up, and now it's sort of like, the one is building it with bricks, building a wall with bricks. The other one is taking a big block of rock and then you're sort of chiseling it until it's a wall, right? So but you're still putting effort in, right? It's just a different.
I see. Well, my idea, my feeling was that we always go like this rule-based statistics, like feature extraction, and then kind of like implicit learning of the features. So we went from rule-based to like the features to statistical. Then we went to the deep learning where we had the features extracted. Then we ended up at something like rule-based. Basically, prompt engineering was essentially rules written in natural language. Then we going now to some kind of more like a statistical way where this prompting, like where self-prompting is happening. And I feel like we're always like kind of circling in this. So
yeah, that's true. Open it up, close it down, moving back and forth. That's right. You're right about that. And then constraining it where it can move and the environments, and it becomes really, really complex. You're right. I think everyone is like, oh, this should be so simple to do. Everyone expects that building an AI agent is simple, but then they start, just doing small things like, whoa. No, this is it's not for people. It's not for normal people.
It's simple to build an AI agent, but to build a useful AI agent is a different story.
Just like SAP said, they were moving from being a system of. I've been really preoccupied with that. I think I remember someone saying at SAP Sapphire that they are moving from being a system of records to being a system of action. And I'm like, but you need to be a system of trust. Action is simple. There's just an open claw, go crazy in SAP, but no one wants that. No one wants action. People want trust, right?
Yeah, acting without trust and without knowing what to do is usually not a good sign. Even a human, the one who's acting without thinking, is not necessarily.
Yeah, how many humans are autonomous, right, in enterprises?
Nah.
Exactly. Not many, right? So my question also is focus and attention really the true frontier and not Fable 5. What?
Actually, I was like recently in a big event where we're mostly experts in, like around 300 experts, like, mostly AI experts, but we're other engineers. And there was a question, who do you think will be most likely substituted by AI? And immediately experts were like managers. They were like, we are going.
Because they hate their managers.
I know, but like it was like, essentially they're kind of orchestrators in bureaucracy processes.
Yeah, but they'll all be managers now. Everyone's becoming a manager. That's the problem. So you can't really replace all the managers because we're all becoming managers, right?
But a manager without domain expertise will be a useless manager, because if you do not know what you're doing and you just sign vacations and no bureaucracy, then
Maria, are you sure? You work with computers, but can you configure a transistor? Can you set up a CPU?
Sorry, what?
Can you work with transistors and set up a CPU? Can you build the CPU? No, you can't, but you can still work with it.
No.
You work with computers all the time, but you don't understand how computers work.
Oh, that's where you're going at.
Yeah.
You don't need to understand how computers work. You don't need to understand how AI works, but you need to be an expert in something.
Yeah, but at some point it moves up, right? And you just assume that this is how it operates.
Yes, and exactly.
So you need to, maybe you don't need to understand how to click how to sort the emails. You need to understand what's the purpose of sorting the email.
Exactly.
And so the abstraction level just moves into an orchestration stuff, and then you all become managers. We all become bureaucrats in the end as well, right? Because we all also have to share the accountability.
I see. I feel like you have a different understanding of what a manager is, in my opinion.
So what is a manager, Maria?
From my subject manager is mostly the person who does the bureaucratic tasks in a corporation, such as signing vacations, doing one-on-ones, making sprint alignments, and similar. It's not rare that the manager of a large IT department has never worked with programming languages, or has no concept at all what computer AI and so is. It's not uncommon.
But he might know what the purpose is of it, and you might only know about the computational. I just think that everyone's so quick to say these things, but for some weird reason, like with the one with neurodivergent before, it's never on your own. It's not. You never say us in this room we're going to be replaced. It's like everyone in Silicon Valley saying lawyers will be replaced, but that's because they hate regulation, right? They hate lawyers. But if you're lawyers, I always ask, you want to replace lawyers? Okay, I get the point that they can write and read contracts, but can they also take responsibility for the legal exposure? No, they can't do that because that's on someone else to take that responsibility. Is it because we won't have conflict, the cooperation in the future? Is it because there's so many subtle values? One of my first prompts, not one of my first prompts. I made a lot of silly prompts initially, but one of the things I made a lot of silly prompts. You probably did too. But anyway, one of the things I really like was ask AI to make a list of different roles, and then say what is the surface level obvious value or produce of this role, right? And then what is the subtle indirect value of it? And then you suddenly, that's why a manager is an idiot, but he's not an idiot because he's just aligning to a specific place in the process, in the system. And a lawyer is doing, a lawyer is writing and reading contracts. That's the obvious value. But his subtle value is that he's, solving conflict. He's finding the balance between what we want to do, our exposure versus our risk and all that, right? You get my point?
I see your point. I still not convinced that the value can come from, for example.
But a developer today with a Fable 5, he's just a manager.
Developer with yes, and that's the thing. That's what I think. If you have Fable 5, you let's say you build an application for something domain specific, like for, I don't know, let's say for you build an app for education. Developer is a bottleneck here. You should just give Fable to the person who is an expert in education. And this expert in education can build the prototype the way they want, and they do not need to have this developer on the way between them.
You say prototype, but then why not say no? Just
and then you pass this prototype to the developer who validates this, and that's where his expertise comes in. To see if it follows the best practices. So that's basically you mostly rely on the expertise of people to steer these models. So the expert in education builds what they want to have with the output that they want to have. And then the expert in IT sees if it's has the best practices, if it follows. Maybe IT can provide some kind of agent templates before, because you can define agent in MD5.
I just think the manager thing is just nice, because I think that the value in companies, in enterprise, is always made up of four things: people, and purpose, and processes, and priorities, and all of those things sort of fall under the manager umbrella. They are responsible for the people and for your vacation, right? Improving your vacation, knowing if you're there or not there, right? And also, they're also responsible for the purpose of what you're doing. Why are you diving into this specific subject matter thing that you're an expert on, right? It makes sense, and they can sort of justify it to upper management. They can also prioritize your time and prioritize that we should have one of you, right? Saying, I want one of Maria in my team, right? And link you to the process, the value chain of the company, which is never just Maria doing something AI in a corner. It's all, some people have to sell what Maria is doing as well. And the manager sort of, this weird layer. And you get my point. I just think that everyone's so fast at saying we don't need these and that, and there's never themselves we don't need. And it just annoys me so much, because I think people need to start looking a little bit beyond their own noses and say, okay, why is the CFO so annoying? Because he's accountable for the budget. Okay, and for telling if the company is alive tomorrow. Why is the IT manager so annoying? Because he's responsible for having all the hardware working, and he doesn't want anything to break, and he doesn't have unlimited resources to make that happen, right? Why are people annoying? They are usually annoying because they have some kind of accountability. Does it make sense?
Well, I mean, the accountability makes sense in a way. Here, still, I see how a lot of these hierarchies can be really cut massively in the way.
Up,
I mean,
right? In the fractal, just another fractal level, right? Don't you think? We just go up a level.
You could you really need more. You will have more individual contributions than contributors than the managers steering managers steering managers steering managers.
Yeah, but then in it will all be managers of something on a higher level, because.
Well, there will always be someone to put the blame on, right? Like we cannot blame the LLM, so eventually you will have to have someone accountable for the.
Yeah, exactly. You're orchestrating your Cloudbot as well, Maria, right?
Sorry.
You're orchestrating your Cloudbot too. You're managing your Cloudbot. You're also a manager.
I mean, I don't like anthropomorphization.
No, I don't do either. But
I mean, I don't like saying that I'm managing or it's that it's my employee, because obviously it's a tool. I mean, I'm not a manager. Like a carpenter is not a manager of a hammer, and I'm not managing my my LLM for the.
How do you feel today, LLM? Are you happy at work? Are you happy with the tasks?
Sorry.
They're asking you, LLM, are you happy with your tasks, and do you get along with your other Cloudbots? Just asking.
Exactly. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So we should have one-on-one. Yeah, so we need to what let's have a daily stand-up. Like, what are you doing today? Like, let's have a retrospective. Like, I mean, that's like, what's your why?
But my point is just, I'm just annoyed at everyone saying that I just think things move in a different level, and there will always be more complexity to handle, and in the end we'll find a way to organize around the complexity. And I think also the increased complexity is why there are so many managers today, because managers, they have smaller teams. Most don't have teams of like 50 workers like they did 70 years ago, maybe. Now they have teams of 5 experts instead. So you have more managers because the complexity of what they're managing is increasing. And I just don't see that. I don't see complexity going down with AI. I see it increasing.
So you assume that you will have 5 employees with a chatbot, and then you will have a manager managing these 5 employees, and then you will have a manager over like 5 managers, and how do you see this hierarchy?
Yeah, I see that, because I think that when you have people with chatbots, you have people who can make much higher outputs. So you have a much larger surface and complexity to manage, and that means you can't have 50 of those. You will have no clue what's going on. You can't justify what's going on. You don't know what's going on, and you have to be accountable in the end. So I think, you'll have even more managers. And I know everyone's killing them off, but they're rehiring them, and they've done that every time there's been a technology improvement. They've sort of said, oh, let's get rid of this middle layer, and then they've rehired 3 times as many as they got rid of, because they realize, we're getting more output, but we also got more complexity. So it's just a really, it's a key thought for me, this actually.
I mean, I kind of feel like a lot of the tasks that they perform now can be reduced to like 10%. So I don't think they actually handle that much complexity as you think. I mean, I feel like handling complexity is really something that is at most like 10-20% of the time there, because I mean, I also been managing people, and I kind of have a feeling that a lot of this is just bureaucratic work, like budget planning, and kind of like talking, like sometimes babysitting, sometimes dealing with like reviewing like the customers' complaints and like figuring out like what's the person did wrong and why they did wrong and so on. So I mean a lot of this could be actually outsourced, and I'm not even talking about like completely uneventful stuff as like one-on-one talks and like daily stand-ups and Scrum processes and so on, which is
Maria, you should do it. You should do a test. You should try to make a Claudebot that's your manager and see how happy you'll be with that.
Claudebot that my manager.
Make Claudebot your manager. Try to see how it will, ask you how it's going, and it will sort of figure out all the problems.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean that a lot of the things is just like a lot of the micromanagement. If you really want to do this, you can do it with OpenClaw.
But I love to hear you, Riley. I made Claudebot my boss. That would be a great article. Please do that.
No, that will be a complete idiot.
But Maria, but let me move into another question. So just maybe the final, not the final, but the final, almost final. What is the AI realist view right now? Right, you're the AI realist. What do you constantly come back to at the moment? Don't tell me that you hate managers. We're done with that.
No, I don't hate managers. I mean, to be honest, I don't even agree with with your statement that everyone says, "Oh, I will not be replaced," because frankly, I mean, I come from translation background, and I'm quite sure. Like, I mean, I was sure even when I was graduating that I will be replaced. I mean that
I'm not saying that you won't be replaced. I'm just saying we'll have even more. We'll have many roles. We'll have more roles and more output. I say you'll have to. You have to move on to something else, right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that if I continue, I was a developer. I'm pretty sure like my work as a developer would be completely replaced by LLMs. I mean, if I was a developer, I mean, if I would be still selling myself as a Python developer for some reason, I'd be replaced. And also, I even feel like a lot of this deep learning expertise now, it's kind of getting way less relevant because a lot of products currently, they're basically black box, right? You don't need to work with transformers libraries anymore. So, and even their LLMs are quite good. So that's also where I could be replaced. I mean, I also can imagine that essentially some AI analytics and writing can be greatly outsourced to at some point. I wouldn't be shocked if they would generate like better analytics or like better than I do. So, I mean, realistically, I feel like there's a lot of possibilities that if I do not keep on developing and do not think about it, like where I have to head, I will also be replaced, maybe even faster than managers, who I still think will be greatly removed.
But I get your point, right? But I think that the thing is, there's a lot of people think there will be no jobs, right? I think there'll be lots of jobs, but you have to.
I think there will be lots of jobs. Yeah, like I think there will be lots of places where you could probably already build up your expertise. I mean, even like the idea of configuring all these MD files and agents and like designing these workflows, it's not that trivial. I mean, how many people can do it now? Like not so many. Yeah. So you can even start developing in that direction, and then if it doesn't work, well, then move somewhere else. But
expertise is deepening also in AI, also in technology, right? You're deepening. Everyone's going, as you just said, you're going deep into how to configure these agents. Developers are not talking about business outcomes and business strategy like I thought they might be doing, right? Because now AI is coding. No, they're talking all about skills and MCPs, and they're just going all nuts, right? In a rabbit hole. And I think everyone needs to get into a rabbit hole as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I still kind of think like if you're not really a subject matter in something that is not AI, like that's like maybe because I come from the translation,
Yeah,
because
but I agree.
I knew that just speaking a foreign language or like translating is not a skill like that will be useful. Like you need to know what to say instead of how to say, and this is why I never believed in like career as a translator, and now I don't much believe in career as a developer or AI expert purely. You need to have something else to be a subject matter expert in something else to stay relevant. So again, to know what to do instead of
So
how you.
what are you an expert in, Maria?
That's a great question. So I mean, I'm actually trying to find the way. So now I'm looking a lot at security. So how to deal with like with them. How to use AI for security purposes. So that's quite an interesting topic, like in the corporate settings. And but yeah, in fact, this is the place to search for now. I mean, otherwise, yeah, I would say I can be replaced at some point. Simply being an AI expert is maybe like being
It's like being an AI translator, right? Yeah,
yeah,
an AI
being a
translator.
translator. If you don't have something else, you might have a problem.
It's like everyone's like, there's a small window right now when everyone's like, oh, tell me, we need some AI. Tell me about AI. Give me an AI strategy. What should I do with AI? And in a moment they'll be like, no, what should I do with my this and that process? What should I do with my supply chain? What should I do? You know, they'll be asking you questions about specific things that require you have some subject matter expertise there. And
Exactly.
then AI becomes, a tool like a hammer, like you said before. And they don't come to carpet and ask him, so do you have hammers? What can you do with hammers? Are you good at wielding hammers? That's just a weird question to ask a carpenter, right? But that's, for some weird reason, that's what everyone's being asked right now, right? Do you have a hammer strategy?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what can I do with AI? I'm like, well, I mean,
What
what
can
do
I
you
do
need
with a
to do in
hammer?
general?
What
Yes.
can I do?
Do you have like a nail somewhere that is sticking out? Or like,
Maria, do you have a hammer strategy, by the way, any chance, that I can borrow?
I mean, nail something.
No, so that's the AI realist view right now.
Well, I think the realistic view is probably that we will have certain changes out there, but I do not believe that agents are cognitively there to to reach the full automation or like to have this destructive impact on the market. Many fear mongers proposing. So I would say we just need to adapt, and the best way is to use it and kind of embrace it in a way that we adopt it to our workflows, we learn about it, and we make our own opinion how good it is, instead of listening to me or to anyone else, and then also be honest with ourselves, like, is this really a danger to our profession? Like, not in a denial way, like I'm still smarter, but actually ask yourself, like, is this like actually producing the output better or comparable to what I would produce? And if it's comparable, is it worth paying to me like 200,000, 100,000 when my employer can get a subscription for 20 euros? So that's and again, on the other hand, also for those who are hyping up, also to try it and ask themselves honestly, so is it what you expected? Because very frequently you will see that the reality is very far from what is promised, and we have a lot of wishful mnemonics and a lot of misnomer. And I also believe that agent in itself is a misnomer.
Yeah, I do too.
Here. So if we kind of start, and language defines reality, right? As we know. So
yes.
if we start,
thank you for saying that. That can't be said enough.
Yeah, so if we start naming things more as what they are, it might also help. Like I like calling agents prompts that call tools, because that it makes it simpler, or agents as routers between because they're basically routing.
Start by calling them machines. Start by calling them machines, right? And stop asking them what they will be doing in 5 years, right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's. I mean, I'm sure it will answer.
Yeah, yes. Oh, yes. But also, I think you're also onto something when you said that people are exaggerating what they can do. I think there's a lot of people out there, developers who've seen how good they are writing Python code, which is something they're extremely exceptional at, and they're also exceptional at remembering, keeping. From iteration to iteration, they sort of keep the code, where with normal language, with an article, it keeps on changing it. So it's definitely not the same process. It's different. It's jacked, right? And I think there's a lot of people who've been seeing how good it is at that, who's been like, oh, this is going to extrapolate to everything. But it's just jacked, right? It's different. It doesn't necessarily translate that easily to things that have higher ambiguity.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, it also doesn't have the equal performance across languages and domains, and it also has different performance across people. Pretty much, we've seen this even with all the language models, like that language models perform the best for white middle-aged men speaking American English, and everyone who deviates from there, the language models do not understand them that well.
So maybe I'm white, and I don't know if I'm middle-aged, maybe 42. Is that middle-aged today? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a middle-aged.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Oh, slam. Got that right in my face. And but I'm not American, so then maybe that's why I feel a little bit, strange from it. Yeah, but Maria, this has been, actually one of the longer episodes, but it's also been extremely funny to have you here, and it's been really insightful.
Okay, good.
I've really enjoyed the conversation.
I hope, because I'm now missing my train to Berlin.
Oh, no, you need to go to Berlin. Sorry, I only have one final question for you. Can you still deliver that for me?
Yes, sure.
So, sorry about your train. But Maria, what is the only constant?
Yeah, well, I think the only constant, that's the task you gave me, like the homework to figure it out. So I was thinking about it a lot, and I decided that the constant that differs us, or our type of intelligence, from LLMs is the search for truth. Because humans, no matter what they are, even the liars, they always want to know what the truth is, to be able to lie about it. So the humans, they always want the knowledge. They have this greed and thirst for discovering the truth, no matter how probable it is, no matter if it satisfies the people who listen to it, and so on. LLMs generate the knowledge and the responses with complete disregard for truth. They do not have any intent to create any truthfulness, any factuality. And here we might want to ask ourselves, is any research or any genuine innovation or progress possible with complete disregard of what is the truth? So that's what I think is the only constant.
That is such a great answer. I really, really like it. It also comes back to what so many people before on the podcast is called, they're fluid machines. They're not, they don't have, essence in it. It's just fluid, random walks in a weighted graph, as Walter Quattrociocchi said. Also, my preoccupation with the epistemic relationships between language models and the real world, and how, the non-existent epistemic relationship, right? It's such a thing that really keeps preoccupying me, and has been, a red thread through this whole podcast series. So I really, really like that answer. It's a great answer, Maria. And it's been a really big pleasure and really great having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend or a colleague.